Hello, welcome back to Cloth Edit. I'm Gabrielle, and in this episode I'm talking to you about two makes. Well, three really, because I made a toile in one of them also, but all of my makes use Friday Pattern Company patterns. So the first one I'd love to talk to you about is this one here, and it's the Davenport Dress. Right, the Davenport Dress is a fantastic pattern. It comes in sizes extra small to 7X, and that covers the measurements, for example, the bust 32 inches to 60 inches, or in metric 81 centimeters to 152 centimeters. And there is quite a bit of ease in this too, so you can keep that in mind. Right, this pattern, I love this. Why I love it is you have a number of smaller pattern pieces, which makes it really interesting, I think, for using up scraps of fabric and just playing with color blocking or pattern clashing. But I have this fabric in the store. This is sort of the third version I've had of Positano. This is the latest, it's 100% linen variation to this print. It's the original Positano, smaller patches in inverted commas, and in 100% linen instead of the original linen silk blend. It's, well, these two makes that I'm sort of featuring today are probably some of my favorite fabric ever, really. I love this. So I thought Davenport was perfect for this fabric because it's made up of patches, and the smaller pieces I thought would be perfect to sort of feature particular patches that I love in key sort of areas. So, you know, I've featured, you know, certain patches in the front yoke either side, different ones, and tried to balance out the placement of those, taking, you know, extra care as to what I place next to it in with the bodice piece. There's this beautiful little frill also where I tried to capture some of my favorite bits of the fabric on either side. This one features a little butterfly next to the stripe, which I thought was a lovely contrast. And more, this pattern also has a lovely, quite a deep yoke with gathering in the center back. So yes, so those smaller pieces, especially the front yokes and the little frills, but also actually the casing for the tie, you know, were just provided lots of opportunities to just play with sort of clashing aspects of this patchwork print together. One of my favorite features of this dress is the elasticized neckline. Now, when I was in the middle of making this, I tried on the bodice with the elastic in the neckline, but without the skirt attached, and I thought I'd made it too big. It wasn't sitting very nicely, but once the skirt was attached, it sort of pulls it down and into place, and it sorts it out. Some other lovely features, I think I've mentioned the casing for the drawstring. I love the pockets, especially, you know, you can see the pocket facing in this make. You won't be able to see here, but I will be inserting lots of pictures for you to see. I made a couple of adjustments. I think I added 5 centimeters, not very much, to the sleeves, but I sort of pull my sleeves up and it sort of creates a bit of fullness, which I like. The other change I made was to make this skirt a maxi length. So I followed the pattern as is for the upper part of that skirt, but then when it came to the tiers, my first tier is a little bit wider, so it's 30 centimeters. My second tier is also 30 centimeters, but this is a bit fuller. So the bottom tier is 2 widths of fabric, plus an extra 60 centimeters in there, whereas this first tier was 2 widths of fabric minus that 60 centimeters. So I took out some of the some fabric from the first tier and added it to the second tier, which I wanted that bottom tier to be really full and floaty. So that's my first Davenport and I love it. I want to make more of these. So midsummer, I think this is going to be gorgeous in a really light cotton, like one of my Japanese cottons, I think would be gorgeous. It would also be really fun in a check, and I've seen a few checks in this design on Instagram actually, and it might be fun to play around, especially with the yokes. I love these small yokes, and maybe putting the checks on the bias. I think that'd look really nice. But this started me on a roll because I absolutely love this skirt too, and I really loved the look of the new Saguaro pattern, but I didn't know how I could wear it. I loved the look of the Saguaro when it first came out, not because I was interested in making the slouchy pants particularly, and not that I wanted a cropped top, but that top to me looked like a perfect bodice for a dress. One of my all-time favourite patterns is the Vogue 9253, since being renumbered to the one, and I love that. Now, but one of the things that I often think is that the sleeve is a bit too big, and this sleeve, although it doesn't look like it in the artwork here, the sleeve of the Saguaro isn't as big as that Vogue pattern. So let me tell you about my hack. The fabric I had in mind from the beginning was this linen from Cloth Edit. This is called Unforgettable, and I was wearing it in my previous vlog. But I wanted to test it out first. So this has been in my stash for a long time, and it was from a sister's D-stash. And I love it. It's a lovely print. It's a linen cotton, probably a touch crisper, than this linen is sort of floppy, and this is linen cotton is a bit crisper. So there are possibilities, for different fabrics for this hack, I think. So what did I need to do? Well, the toile actually worked perfectly, and I copied everything from this version into this version. So first, the changes I needed to make. I didn't want to just have a tie here to secure the bodice from opening up too much. That's an option in the pattern. I just wanted to overlap, but I took the overlap even more. So my bodice overlaps about 8 centimeters, which takes up a bit of the ease, which I'm actually fine with. I've got ease around here, and then it's a bit more fitted here, and then it comes out again here. So that worked perfectly. I then needed to think about how I was going to attach the bodice to the skirt. So what I did, the first problem was the Davenport skirt has pockets, and I knew if I wanted to attach that Davenport skirt to the Saguaro bodice, I needed to take in that skirt a bit. So the pockets were a bit troublesome. So what I did, and hopefully this will be clear in this image that I'll put in here. When I was cutting out the upper skirt, I put the pocket facing piece on top of the skirt piece and just cut it out as a simple skirt back and skirt front. So there's no shaping to insert those pockets, and because I lost those pockets, I could just sort of taper it in so I could make the opening of that skirt the same size as what the opening of the bodice was. And there wasn't too much of a difference, they came together pretty quickly, really. The other thing to consider was the actual waistband. So the crop top, you don't need any extra fabric to sew onto the skirt with the top. It's sort of, you just sew it onto the top of that waistband. So I just made a wider waistband, and so it's sort of I think a 1.5 or 2 centimeters seam allowance either side, and I used a slightly narrower casing and elastic. So instead of 5 centimeter elastic, I think I used 3.5 centimeter elastic in there. So, and I've got some pictures of the innards, if you like, so you can understand more clearly what I mean. Right, as for the tiers of the skirt, I actually decided to cut it down to just have one longer tier. And you're going to say, Gabrielle, how long is that tier? I'll tell you. So I stopped the skirt at the same length, exactly the same as the initial Davenport pattern, and my second tier is 55 centimeters, which is 21.5 inches. And I did the same for this one as well. So my toile just has one tier, and my Unforgettable, that's the name of the print, Unforgettable version has the one tier. And again, I just used 2 widths of the fabric, so no hardcore calculations there. So the 55 centimeters and the twice the width of fabric. One thing to consider using such a large scale print as this one is pattern placement. So I really thought about what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to have as quite a complete bloom on one sleeve, but not necessarily right in the middle of the bodice, if you know what I mean. So I think this worked quite well here, how I sort of cut essentially a flower in half on the right side of the bodice. Again, this sleeve is again balanced out by how I placed the print on the back of the garment. I actually quite like the way that looks. I realised that I was going to have a lot of black in the centre back, but I kind of like how that looks in the end. I love the Saguaro pattern. I really, really love it. I think this sleeve width is perfect. The length is perfect. It's such an easy sew. I'm always tempted to just pull out some of my satin bias binding whenever I need bias, but actually followed the instructions and made my bias, and it's actually it's perfect for this linen. This opening in this cloth really needed that, a decent bias binding to keep it in shape. And yes, it came together beautifully. I'm so happy with this hack. I really, really am. And I'm happy with my toile too. I've been wearing these, I've been wearing this one around the house all the time because it's so comfortable. And this I sort of wear, I've actually worn it at home, but I often wear it out. So just like the Davenport, the Saguaro has exactly the same size range. So excellent size range, and there's quite a bit of ease in the bodice, in the top as well, so you can keep that in mind. I just went via my bust measurement, having looked at the finished garment measurements, knowing I was going to lose a couple of inches because I wanted to fold it, overlap is the right word, overlap those bodice front pieces much more than the pattern suggested. And yes, absolutely love it. I thought I'd pop into my Davenport before I said goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to leave you with some images of me walking around in my Davenport, in my Positano, and also my Saguaro Davenport hack. I hope you enjoy. Until next time, bye bye.